Hey everybody, Don Helgeson here with the PC Tribe. I've got an interview get ready to go here with Greg Brown. We'll just give a couple minutes here to get a couple people on board. I also wanted just to show everybody where we are right now. We are in beautiful Nanaimo, British Columbia, Canada. I'm at Greg Brown's house. This is the view from his deck of the Pacific Ocean. And we are now going to do the latest episode of the PC Warrior Live. This will be the third episode. First one was Tracy, second one was me, and the third one is Greg Brown, who happens to be one of my neighbors. And so we thought we'd change it up a little bit. And I see Joe is here, Richard, hi Richard, and Tracy's on. And so we thought we'd change it up a little bit, and I would actually drive over to Greg's house, and we do the interview together here in person. So here we are. I'll turn this camera sideways. Oh, I can't turn the phone while we're recording. So we'll get it nice and tight and close here. So, as I said, I've got Greg Brown and Don Helgeson here. We're in Nanaimo, British Columbia, Canada. And we'll get this episode going. So, Greg, I've noticed that you're wearing this Team Canada jersey here. Could this represent anything at all?
I don't know. It's just a global game. Don, it means that I didn't change from last night. That's all it means.
Did we win a gold medal in something?
I think so. I think it's a game called hockey. It's the frigid tundra north of the 49th. It's one country's national sport, and a bunch of others wannabe sports or something like that. Anyhow, it was for those who do or don't know, the rivalry between the Canada and U.S. women's hockey team is probably one of the best rivalries in sports. They are the last 3-4 Olympic games have gone down to overtime between them. And last night we settled it in regulation. It was still an absolutely wonderful game to watch. And it's sad because both men's teams could have taken a page out of the women's team because they got knocked out in quarterfinals. But it was an unusual Olympics. But the women, actually, I think as cancer people, we can learn a lot from what the women had to endure in order just to get there. Because it was a strange Olympics. They've been in isolation for months, not even with their own families, to go through it. And actually, the Canadian women's team, I don't know if you knew about it or read about it, but the Russians, as is their typical forte, besides if the doping doesn't work in their skating, they need to resort to other means. So in the Russian-Canada women's hockey game, they didn't do their COVID testing on time. So the game got delayed by 2 hours because they didn't have the results for the Russian team. So instead of just kicking them out like they should have done a long time ago, they actually started the game and they had to wear face masks while playing the first 2 periods of the game. Can you imagine playing any sport at a competitive level wearing a face mask? Anyhow, needless to say, Canada wiped their noses. But last night's Canada-Russian game was a wonderful game. So, given that we're in Canada, we'll just dress for the occasion. I mean, what's it without? This is known as the Canadian tuxedo that we've got here.
You might hear some power saws going in the background, chopping some trees. So anyway, I see we got all kinds of folks joining us here. We've got Anthony here, and Dan, and Mike, and Brian's on board here now. And so what I thought we'd do is we might as well get right into it. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit about what's brought us to here today. Is that back in November, early December, Greg ended up joining Man Up to Cancer as a result of, I was interviewed locally here to help support up that Facebook page. And then shortly thereafter and around that same time, Tracy Morgan created the PC Tribe. And Greg got on board with that right away too. And we started contacting each other locally and realized that we lived within a couple miles of each other. We've been meeting each other for coffee and chatting almost every day online and that. And when I was looking for the next person to interview for their story, his story is quite fascinating. We've all got our own individual journeys that we've done. Oh, Robert, you made it from South Africa. Good to see you here. So we all have our own individual stories, but Greg's is one that I think we all really need to hear. And without any further ado, I think now is a great opportunity for you to let us know what's gotten you to here. Your story's fascinating, so please let everybody know.
Well, I guess we all have our stories and travels and whatnot. So mine is no different. Our situations are similar in a lot of ways, but different in other ways. And it was sort of fascinating. I'm an insurance advisor, life and health insurance advisor by practice. I run a brokerage, and I learned a long time ago that people from their outward appearances, you never understand what challenges people may or may not be dealing with sort of behind the outward appearances. And so by way of history, I am currently 62, no family history in my family of cancer, none whatsoever. My mom, who just recently passed away a couple of years ago, lived a very healthy and vibrant 89. She was still golfing 3-4 days a week, ran Aqua Fit for her community and whatnot. The only, I guess, health blot would be some heart disease on my father's side. But that's it. And myself, generally fairly healthy and active. Until about 5 years ago, I had a major ankle injury. I almost had my, so it's another thing that Don and I share. We're both right ankle gimps. I suffered a major ankle injury about 5 years ago. I almost lost my right foot in the process. So that was, I guess, my first real experience with the medical system and wonders of medical practice. But it's funny, in my practice, I'm really intimately familiar with the incidences of illness in people on a whole wide spectrum of scales. And I will say that the one illness that scared the bejeepers out of me was cancer. And again, as I tell my clients, there's the controllable things in life and the uncontrollable things in life. And while some things are hereditary and genetic, cancer's a bit of a game changer in the sense that so much of it it's environmental, right? It's in the air we breathe, the water we drink. It's I call it the modern day scourge. So really, I hoped I would never hear those words. And in light of my family history not having any, I was cautious. But out of all the cancers, the one that really scared me the most was prostate cancer. Just like women's breast cancer, prostate cancer is so prevalent in men, right? So I've never taken my health lightly. I go for regular physicals and checkups. And I had a checkup. I moved here to the island about 1.5 years ago, a new family doctor. I was due for a physical. So he ran me through for the blood work and blood tests. And that was a year ago, March. And here in BC, we can see our medical results online. So after doing the blood work for the physical, I went online and you see it, and they've got green is good, yellow maybe, red, and sure enough, there was this one red flag that ticked up, and it was my PSA. And I thought, like, what's this all? I mean, I was familiar with what a PSA meant. But my PSA had never been an issue previously. So I thought, what's this all about? So sure enough, I did a little bit of research. My PSA was 4.9, 4.5 is considered acceptable. So go see my doctor for the results. And says, yeah, everything looks okay, Greg, but his PSA is just sort of over what we'd like to see. He says, bend over, we're going to do the old finger test, check you out. And that was sort of my journey of losing any dignity and just following down that path. And so he said, Greg, he says, sort of feel something. It could be nothing. He said may not even be in the prostate. I don't think it's anything major, but I'm not the expert. I'm going to book you in to see a urologist in town. He's got a better finger than I, and we'll sort of go from there. So I thought, okay, well let's go. So booked into the urologist. Got in to see a urologist about a month later, and did the whole family history thing. Said, yeah, you're low risk, but the PSA's higher than we'd like to see. I'd like to do another reading. We'll see where it comes in. Finger test. He says, yeah, I feel something there too. Could be something, could be nothing. And PSA within a month had gone from 4.9 up to 5.6. So certainly not trending in the right direction. So he said, Greg, he says, I'd like to schedule you for an MRI. He says, we'll just check, see, it'll just give us a little bit more clearer picture of sort of what's going on or not going on. So got in for an MRI, and my doctor called me up shortly after the MRI. He says, Greg, do you have your MRI results? I said, no. I says, I'm going on Thursday to see the urologist. He says, I'm no expert. He'll go over everything with you, but he says, I'll just briefly go over it. It was quite interesting. I mean, the MRI is a full body scan, right? So he says, well, you got this here and this there, and, nothing major, nothing serious. But he says it does show something. The urologist will tell you. So sure enough, and my wife came with me to this urologist appointment. And so he said, yeah, Greg, he says, there's something there. Again, it may be nothing, but it shows a 30 to 40% increased risk. We want to rule stuff out, so I would recommend a biopsy. Then we'll know for sure. So I guess that sort of started down the road, because this is, as we all know, cancer is not an individual thing. It's your the whole family is impacted by it, and so my wife took it a lot harder than I did. But her mother had died young from cervical cancer, and she was the caregiver. So she had seen firsthand the ravages of cancer, and she was traumatized, may be a little strong, but certainly affected by it a lot more than me. And I tend to be let's cross the bridge, or let's deal with the facts when we need to deal with them. And I don't go down a rabbit hole of what may or may not be. Yes, of course, I checked out Dr. Google, and while I was familiar with prostate cancer in general, started doing my research just to start preparing myself, if for nothing else, to have good questions for the doctors going forward. So biopsy, as we all know, that's just taking it all to a whole new level. Mm-hmm. I don't know how these doctors do it, to be quite frankly. I sure so wouldn't be looking up people's asses all day long for a living. But, shooting darts up people's asses in the process, mm-hmm. After the first one, you just hear poof, and you knew what was coming. But I guess he was tender in his own way, and again, very thorough in terms of describing and knowing what to anticipate. And I guess I started developing a feeling of, wow, this is what childbirth is like in certain respects, and a whole new appreciation for what women have to endure. So I had to wait a month, more or less, to get my biopsy results. And in the meantime, my son was out here visiting from Ontario, and that's fine. We did. So we went back in after the biopsy results. And my wife came with me again, and sure enough, 7 Gleason score, 4.3. He said, Greg, you're just over the threshold. You're at a stage where we need some intervention. I have a really good friend. We've known each other for 50 years, same age, same everything. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer 7 years earlier, but he's undergoing an active surveillance routine. So as I was going through this, it's nice to sort of have someone that you can sort of reach out to and sort of pick someone's brains. Of course, everyone's situation and circumstances are different, but I remember vividly when he was first going through the treatment, the challenges and stress he was feeling at the time. And so just knowing someone, sort of gone through it, it's nice to be able to sort of reach out. And I guess that's sort of what the tribe and Man Up to Cancer is all about. We have some good resources here on the island as well, which I was able to reach out to get a little bit more sort of information, advice, prepare for just knowing and understanding what my options might be or would be. Be thankful though. I mean, the urologist was patient, thorough, I would argue unbiased in turn, Gleason score, what did that mean? What stage of cancer was I at? And sort of what were my options? So surgery was certainly one, and radiation or brachytherapy was another alternative for me. And I guess throughout the process, they also go, "Oh, Greg, you're young." I thought, wow, you're the only ones who sort of make me feel that way. But it was still early stage diagnosis, so I felt fortunate that I did have choices and options available to me. And again, he took time to answer my questions, and more importantly, time to answer my wife's questions as well. So he said, "I'm going to recommend you to see a radiation oncologist so that they can outline what your radiation options are and what brachytherapy is all about," although he'd gone into some detail as well, and whatnot. And that's sort of the next steps. And then you decide sort of which way you want to go. So I guess the takeaway coming out of the meeting, notwithstanding that, the obvious was confirmed, was my wife felt more comfortable. He had put her at ease, at least understanding what the options were and whatnot. So now we start down the rest of the road in terms of the CT scans and whatnot. So a month later, I had to go down to Victoria, it's about 2 hours away from here, to meet with the surgery could be done here in Nanaimo. We have a really good hospital here. Can do just about everything except for major heart surgery, and radiation chemo is the one thing they can't do for cancer. So we went down for a consult with the oncologist in Victoria, who outlined again what brachytherapy was all about and what my options were. So now it came down to what was I going to do? And that's sort of, the emotional part is, I think, the greater struggle. And, whether you're stage 4, 3, 2, or 1, I think the mental challenge is the hardest challenge, notwithstanding the medical interventions. Depending on what day you ask me on, one day I wanted the surgery, the next day I wanted the brachytherapy. And I was sort of tossing and turning, trying to figure out which way I wanted to go. The thought of sort of having these radiation implants, on one hand, was reassuring. I had confidence in the science and the medical professionals. On the other hand, it's a bit intrusive. So I had another consult with my urologist again, just to really understand all the side effects of what the surgical procedure was going to entail for me. And also, too, in the back of my mind was weighing heavily, because COVID is the other challenge that we're all sort of enduring. And when COVID first hit in 2020, all the surgical procedures here in BC were scrubbed and shut down for probably 2 months. They were able to reopen them and catch up. And my fear, or one of the pros of going down a surgical route, was I could get in and have the surgery done right away. If I went the brachytherapy or the radiation implant route, I would have to wait. I would have to wait for OR time and whatever. That could take months, and in all likelihood was going to be in the new year. Because by now we were talking, it was late September, early October. And so that was weighing on my mind. But in the end, I opted for the brachytherapy. And I talked to other people who had gone through the surgical procedure and gone through prostate treatments. just again to understand what the books don't tell you. But I came to the conclusion I did want the brachytherapy. So I gave both my urologist and oncologist the final verdict. So the oncologist said, great, we need to do the bone scan, we need to do a CT scan. We'll order the radiation seeds, and when we can get an OR room is when we'll do it. It could be 1, could be 3 months, we don't know. So then the wait started. And I was waiting. I was anticipating a wait into the new year. But I got a call saying, no, they had space coming up in December. So that meant I had to go in for an ultrasound, because you use the ultrasound to determine the placement of the radiation implants. Again, just another educational process, just, stripping down to the raw and walking into just a theater full of people, here, jump into the stirrups here. We're going to have some fun. And, it's pretty uncomfortable. Anyhow, because you're fully conscious. There's no anesthesia when you're just doing the ultrasound. But the flip side of it was, after it was done, the oncologist said, Greg, what you just went through today is exactly what we're going to do when we do the implants. The only difference is you're going to be under, because when we do the implants, you're not going to be conscious. So that was sort of the positive. And then I had to wait a month. So December 16th was when I had my treatment. So we went down, we booked. So when I went down for my original ultrasound, only I went down because we were in the middle of some terrible weather. So the only highway between Nanaimo and Victoria was down to 1 lane alternating because of washouts and floods. So I actually went down the night before, which was a good thing, because I would never have made it otherwise. So I went down the night before, didn't want to take any chances. My wife was with me. COVID, couldn't come into the hospital, so you go in. We'll see you later. We'll call you when we're ready. But again, the nurses, the doctors, they're like wonderful. Just make you feel like so comfortable, no matter how uncomfortable the situation is. And you're conscious going into that surgical amphitheater. It's like a new spectator sport. And then Mr. or Mrs. Anesthesiologist, as this situation was. Oh, so we got a gentleman here from South Africa. My anesthesiologist was South African. It's a wonderful lady.
we actually have a lot of South African doctors and hospital staff that live in Canada.
Yeah, and out here in BC in particular.
Yeah.
Anyhow, went to sleep. They did their thing. Came awake, and Bob's your uncle. The usual. Bruising, discomfort, swelling from the post-surgical procedure. Post-surgery, I could feel something different, but I won't say a tremendous amount of discomfort. Catheter to start with, but they yanked that puppy out, once you come to, out of the anesthesiologist. So that was sort of the plus. Unless you have a side effect, I wouldn't need a catheter. Unless I had an infection, which is in a minority of cases. So that was one of the appeals of brachytherapy. And I actually drove home. We stayed overnight. Again, Victoria's a beautiful place. It was Christmas time. Great to see the lights. I actually drove home the next day. I consider myself fortunate. My biggest side effect is, I'll say, weak urinary control. I won't say necessarily incontinence. But man, when you start feeling the tingling, like you're running for the tree or you're running for the toilet, it's one or the other. Yeah. There's no stopping it. And, I consume lots of water just for fluidity's sake. But that's about it. The swelling and bruising went away within the first week. A little bit of tiredness. I'd probably have a nap most afternoons, 3 or 4 days a week for the first month or so, but not anymore. I feel fine. I had my first post-op consult a month after the fact, so in January. My PSA had gone from a high of 7 down just post pre-surgery. I was down to 2.7 within 4 weeks.
That's great.
Oncologist is happy. I go back. I have another consult in 3 months, and she expects it to be pretty close to 0 at that point in time, and then after that, see in a year. So again, from a if you want someone to be an advocate for brachytherapy, you're talking to them. I'm the poster boy. I can't imagine it going any better than what it has. I mean, that the challenge and struggle is the mental part. I mean, yeah, you go into your first post consult, is the number. I wasn't hoping for it to be a miracle. I wasn't hoping for it to be down even normal ranges. I just didn't want to see it any higher. And if it come down a little, bonus. The fact that it's down to where it is great. The fact that my side effects have been relatively minor is good. Yeah. But you always have that worry. And then we all live with, that concern of, okay, you live from one doctor's appointment, one consult to the next. I don't care if that's next week, next month, next quarter, next year, is it going to manifest itself again in some other form? But until then, I take solace in the science and the good hands of the good doctors, and that it's good. And my challenge, 62, I run my own insurance agency, is so everyone knows, you hear that C word, is the fragility of life certainly comes into perspective. So do I continue to work or don't continue to work? And it was a massive distraction, shall we say. And I told my wife, I said, for the month of January, I need time. I need time to talk to others in my business. I need time for myself, for our financial planning, et cetera, et cetera. Do I stop it? Do I do it? Do I dial it back? So I've come to the conclusion, I'll dial it back to a degree. I'm not ready to stop just yet. And I'll just manage my time. I check out most days by 2 or 3 o'clock. Mind you, I start my days at 7 a.m. because I've got a whole pile of clients back east. But yeah, it's the mental challenges. So that's, I guess, my story in a nutshell, and my mission. So as I started going through the process, as my friends all know, I'm not particularly shy on social media or otherwise. I made it very public, and my wife said, "Greg, what are you doing? Blah blah blah." And I said, "Karen, if I can do nothing else as a result of this, if people and guys in my situation have the good fortune as I have to be diagnosed early and have options like I had, then I consider I've done my job, and I take I take every opportunity with everyone I know, and there's many friends of mine who are similar ages, even younger, and neighbors and whatever, who haven't, and as a result now are getting their PSA checked. So my mission in life, like I said, is to just create awareness so others have those choices and those options. Again, thanks to Trevor, thanks to Tracy. As a result, so the shirt I'm wearing. So one of my weaknesses is my beer. Beer and wine are probably it. So you're talking to Bob and Dave and Mackenzie here. But there's a local microbrewery here in town called Wolf Brewing. So those who who know Men Up to Cancer, it's the Wolf Pack, right? We're friends amongst friends. So I reached, and I saw that Trevor had established a partnership with a local brewery in Maine. So I said to Don, we got this brewery here in town called Wolf Brewery. I said, how perfect is this for a partnership or a community activity. So I've reached out to them. I've got a meeting scheduled with them in a week's time to, again, see if they'll take us on as a local community agent for, if nothing else, to create awareness, ideally for prostate cancer. If they want to do a broader thing, prostate for men, breast for women, or just cancer in general, then we're sort of looking to create that partnership to, again, just create broader awareness, certainly here in Nanaimo and perhaps on the island, in general. And for those who don't know Vancouver Island, it's a big place. We're 500 kilometers from tip to tail. So it's a big spot. But again, just letting people and men in particular know that, there are resources. Because again, having Dawn here and then reaching out to other island people, and on the island we've got another gentleman, Gogs, who's got some wonderful resources. If we can be a resource to others and just get the message out, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure for sure. Then that's what my hope and what my aim is. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And again, I count my blessings every day for sure.
Yeah, you're not a shy guy. You like to talk. That's good. No, you're very good at that's an incredible story. As I was saying to everyone before we started here, when we first went for coffee and you were telling me about it, I was like, this is something we need to get out, because even back when I was having my first discussions with my urologist and surgeon about my cancer, I'd chosen surgery quite early on. And did a little bit of research on it, but didn't about what you had gone through. And but I think that's what this is all about with the PC Tribe, is about sharing as many stories as we can, because we have people who've joined the group who haven't yet made their decision on what their treatment's going to be. So someone like myself who chose surgery, and someone like yourself who chose brachytherapy, or somebody who's chosen radiation, or someone who's also just going to wait and see where it goes. These are all important stories. And I think it's also important to see what people are doing in different parts of the world. I'm beyond impressed that we have somebody that's up at 2:00 in the morning watching this in South Africa. And I know we have people from all over. We have people in Ireland, and there's a few other countries that have joined. And so as a community, maybe you can talk a bit about how, as I'm not sure, I don't think you belonged to any of these Facebook groups before you were diagnosed. Now, do you think this would have been something that would have been beneficial to you, even for more options?
I don't know about more options, but certainly. So I found it invaluable when I talked to my friend who was going, my buddy and I, we've kept touch over the last 7 years when he's gone through his active surveillance. So when I went in for my biopsy, I talked to him a little bit about sort of what to expect, and I said, as part of your active surveillance, had you gone through a biopsy? He said, yeah, and I said, yeah. I said, they took 6 samples out of me. I thought, man, that's like shit. He said, oh fuck, Greg. He said, 6? He said, I had 15 my last biopsy. I said, 15, man? I wouldn't be walking out of there. So from that perspective, I think, and I notice on either Man Up to Cancer or the Tribe too, I don't see many people or guys talking about brachytherapy. And look, I'm not here to sway anyone one way or the other. But certainly if you want to talk about it, or if you know someone, I'm happy to talk about sort of what my experience is. I'm not here to convert everyone, because everyone's situation and circumstances are different. I mean, it worked out for me, but and I know it was helpful for me. It was really helpful for me to talk about 2 guys who had had surgery, 2 guys who had had biopsies, to at least get yourself into that headspace of what to expect. It won't necessarily be pleasant, but you can be somewhat prepared for it. And even post-treatment, I see a lot of sharing, I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I'm experiencing this, or I'm experiencing that. Has anyone else gone through that? Because that helps out immeasurably. And I think having a men's forum does make a difference. And and it's interesting because I support other community groups here in Nanaimo, and for people and families in need, not necessarily specifically cancer, but other families in need. And it was funny. I talked to them because I do grocery shopping and buy groceries and deliver food for seniors who have mobility and other issues. And I was talking to this organization because they have a wide scope. I said, I've got some suits and ties. I said, do you have many men who need clothing to go for job interviews or whatever? They said, no, but we're always looking for men's clothes if you've got hoodies or whatever. So again, I organized just a community event, and they said for women's stuff, we can get it. We have no problems getting women's stuff, but men's stuff, and again, whether that's cancer or whatever, it's a whole different story because we don't. I'm the first to admit, I'm not. I may be an open book on social media, but my wife, it's like, she's got to pull shit out of me, right?
No, and that's one thing I know that you're very involved in the community, and you're very involved in the tribe as well, which is fantastic. I wanted to just kind of turn this conversation a bit too. You talked about your mental health, and I don't think there's anybody on here that hasn't been impacted one way or another with their mental health, that being diagnosed with cancer. Being a friend of yours on Facebook and seeing what you put on the tribe, I know that one of the things that you do, you spend a lot of time outdoors and going for walks and that. You just maybe talk about what you do for your own mental health.
Yeah, good one. So my mental health, I guess, I was really challenged 5 years ago. I mean, I was on disability for 7 months. It was my right foot, so I couldn't drive, I couldn't work. It was, for someone who, I love the outdoors. We do a lot of camping. I love outdoors. That's why I'm in BC. And for those 7 months and 2 surgeries later, that really challenged my mental health for the first time. And I just realized how important it was to have outlets. So, I undertook journaling at that point in time. I tried learning the guitar at that point in time. Things that when I was consumed with work, I didn't have time to do. It gave me an opportunity to sort of try. So this go around, I was I guess I was conscious that when you start going down those rabbit holes, those dark rabbit holes, it's critical to have some escape mechanism, whether it's someone local like Don or my buddy. He's back in Ontario, but I won't hesitate to pick up the phone. It could be early in the day or late at night. We'll text or we'll shoot messages to each other, or if I notice stuff's not normal routine, I'll reach out. How's it going, and likewise to do it. So I find journaling helps me, and I don't beat myself up. If I don't do it every day, if it's every other day, or I get into, I find at certain points in time or juncture, I find doing it daily really helps. But as maybe I get into a better headspace, maybe it becomes weekly. I will go months where I don't. But I find when I start, so it's really important, I find, to have those warning lights. You have them on your car, right? Time for an oil change. When you start feeling something, you notice it on your spouse. They start going. They react differently to you or whatever. So be conscious of those warning signals, and whether it's, for me, I love the outdoors, so I have to go out. I have to get some fresh air. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, or sunny. And there'll be times, a lot of times during the week, I'll say to my wife, honey, I'm going over to Stevenson Point. I need a half hour, an hour. And all I do is I listen to the waves, the water, look for something. Just for me, it's that fresh air. But everyone's differently. I know for Don, he likes working out. I have to exercise more. So that's one of my, I know I have to get there. I'm not there yet. But we need to recognize what are those trigger mechanisms, and don't wait for it to become the depths of despair, because it just becomes a much deeper hole to climb out of. Yeah. And everybody's different. Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say, Greg, like, you are a very positive person, and I think we can learn an awful lot from your story and how you live life. I'm super impressed. I knew the minute I met you that you're somebody I wanted to be around, even for my own the things that are going on with me. And it's like I said, we're always going to be cancer patients and going through this. And I think your story is absolutely fascinating.
Well, my brother-in-law was diagnosed with colon cancer at the same time as I was diagnosed with my prostate cancer. And again, it was just accidental. I mean, he had an appendectomy, and as a result, so we call ourselves cancer brothers.
No, so I think that's what's really important. We've got a real good connection here on the tribe, and we've talked about Man Up to Cancer several times already here. I've got the shirt on. You've got the you've got the hat. I'm just patiently waiting for my gear to be coming from Tracy's shop there.
It might be next year.
Who knows? Yeah, mine's crossed over into Canada. We're just waiting for it to get delivered. But I think it's great that we have each other as a group of men to support each other. I hope that everybody's gotten something out of this. Once this is done, we'll also be uploading this to Tracy's Mohawk Mission YouTube channel. So there'll be opportunities to see this. Greg is, like you said, he's very open about this, and he wants us to get out even beyond from where we are with this group. And I think I actually had this conversation with a friend last night saying how I just hope that by sharing my story and by Greg sharing his story, and it gets out to other people, that there's even it's just that one person that decides to go get their PSA or go get the DRE done, maybe it saves somebody. So I think you've done wonders here with this, and I'm glad you were willing to share your story.
Yeah, but thank you too, Don, because I'm not sure I would have found out about the Man to Cancer. I'm not sure I would have found out about the tribe with Tracy. If it hadn't been for that article in our local newspaper that talked about it. So
and that's where this goes. So everybody share this stuff like crazy, put it out to everybody, because I think we all would love to get I get text messages all the time from friends and family saying that we went and got checked, and I love that. And that's what this is all about. So can you think of anything else you want to let everybody know before we sign off from actually, we are the reigning Olympic champions in hockey for the next 4 years. We probably won't ever mention that again, but hey, it doesn't happen. The U.S. won last time 4 years ago. Yep. So, but anyway, have a good laugh when we got our Tim Hortons and we've got our beer. We just don't have any donuts. Right on. Anything else there?
No, I was going to say, if you have any questions, I'm on the tribe, obviously, so don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to share any way I can.
And as Tracy probably mentioned before in the tribe, I'll be doing the majority of the interviews, probably try to interview somebody once every couple of weeks. I've got a couple people on the list that want to share their stories. If you are one of those, shoot me a message, or Tracy, or Brian, he's also one of the admins. Let us know, because the more messages we get out there, I think the better off we all are. So anyway, signing off from Nanaimo, British Columbia, Canada. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll do this again in a couple weeks.
Have a great day.
All right. Okay. Oh, Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, they are in need of some players.
So are the Canucks.
Yeah. All right, guys. All right. Take care, everyone.